Because I'm thinking, I like vanilla in milk. Prabhupada should like vanilla in milk, right? And Prabhupada looks at me and he says, like this, "Don't do." In that voice, "Don't do." The next day, there was a cook. The very next day, they added a cook to the entourage. So I could massage Prabhupada, which I love doing, in peace. I didn't have to worry about chapatis puffing up or, boiling milk or vanilla, Huh?
Only in the dollar.
So that was a nice story. So continuing on the theme of massaging, in 1977, on the roof of the Lotus building, Prabhupada would take his massage in the sweet, he called it the sweet Bengali winter sun, very health-giving, the sun in the winter. He'd take his massage, and then he'd take his bath, and his bath, there was a shower stall there out by but Prabhupada didn't use the shower. He said, we had two big Ashtadat buckets, and he had us fill those buckets early and put them outside of the shower stall in the sun. And there was a chowki. So by the time Prabhupada was ready to bathe, the sun had warmed that water, made it tepid, not too hot, not cold. Then Prabhupada would pad over in his bare feet, sit on the chowki, and bathe himself from the buckets with his lota. Then after that, he would go into that little room and dress, put on his tilak, say his Gayatri, have his lunch, and then take a nap, right? Afternoon nap. So, several stories regarding this. Some of them are nice. The first time he started doing that, Tamal was starting to massage him. And Prabhupada said, "What is that?" And Tamal said, "I'm massaging you, Prabhupada." Prabhupada said, "That is not a massage. That is a love pat. Bring Bhavananda." He remembered me from way back in 1969. Bring Bhavananda. He can massage. So then I started at Mayapur. That's how I became like Prabhupada's body servant. And Tamal became the secretary. So at that same time, I saw from my room in the long building, after Prabhupada's nap, I saw him, he would walk around the border of the roof chanting, all around. And I saw his head going by. And Prabhupada's up, I'll go up there, right? Again, anything we could do to be in his presence, because his presence was extraordinary. You didn't know it, but somehow, on a very primal level, you knew that this person is just the simplest thing he would do would seem so extraordinary, like drinking water. How many devotees have been fascinated? Prabhupada picks up his lota and turns it, and the water comes doesn't touch his lip, to the lota, the water just comes out, goes right into his mouth. I'm thinking to myself, who drinks water like this? Did you know anyone, David Shakti, who drank water like that? It was unique. So anyway, I run around, and Prabhupada looks at me, he said, oh, come. So we're walking around chanting. Then Prabhupada stops, and at that time in Mayapur, there was nothing between our lotus building and all the way to the jog pit. It was clear. It was just rice fields. You could see all the way there. And Prabhupada stopped, and he was looking at it, and he said, what is more important in a man? His birthplace or his activities? So I said, as all of us would have said, I would think the activities, Prabhupada. He said, yes. He said, so I want you, he said, that is the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. And this, our ISKCON campus, he always referred to it as a campus, is the preaching activities of Lord Chaitanya. Then he turned and he said, I want you to make a place so wonderful here that no one will go to the birthplace, to the jog pit, and everyone will come here. That applause is for Prabhupada, I hope. Certainly not for me. And that is what is being accomplished. Of course, everyone is benefiting, but Mayapur now is booming, and it's all due to the TOVP, really. And that's all by the mercy of our beloved friend Braj Vilas. Ambarish's Chamcha. Then Prabhupada said, on that same time, he said, I had a dream just now that I went to the planet where the pious Muslims go. And what did I say? Oh, Prabhupada, I didn't think there was such a thing. And Prabhupada said, yes. A few. Then he made some statement we won't go into here. But these are little interactions. Yeah. He wasn't someone distant and sitting way up in a big high seat on the top of a pyramid. That wasn't Prabhupada. He was down on the sidewalks of 2nd Avenue in the dirt with his rubber shoes, in that roach-ridden apartment, in that, amazing, extraordinary. So, what was I going to I was trying to think, who would be a pious Muslim in his eyes? And I thought, yes, the Muslim man who put out Prabhupada's dhoti when it was on fire from the firecracker when he was a boy coming home from school. They were throwing firecrackers and his dhoti caught on fire. And this Muslim man jumped forward and put it out with his hands. And when you massage Prabhupada's left leg, you see still the little pencil points, but it's gunpowder, I guess, something, a few little round things. Did you ever do that? You ever see? And another very pious Muslim was, what's his name, who sold us the land in Mayapur? Abar Ali. He sold us the land in Mayapur despite the pressure brought upon him by one of Prabhupada's godbrothers, Tirtha Maharaj, who, he was like he was like the big controller of Mayapur until Prabhupada arrived. Nice, it is nice. This is all we have to do. Just, I wish that we were set up that we could have back and forth interaction, rather than just me. I have so many stories now. What was I was going to tell you a really fantastic, oh yes. So massaging. So that same year, 77, Prabhupada was not feeling well. And he said to Tamal and I, take me from here. Take me to Bombay, to Juhu. So we made the arrangements. We went in, Calcutta. They were very nice, Indian Airlines. And we were situated, we got Prabhupada in his seat. And and we were sitting next to, across the aisle. And the stewardess came, and her name was Mrs. Day. And they had this whole conversation in Bengali. He just charmed her like anything, Mrs. Day. And they made Prabhupada's trip so as comfortable as they could. So we get off the plane in Bombay, we get in the cars, and we drive to Juhu, where Saurabi Maharaj, the temple and the two towers, what are they called? Twin towers, right? And Prabhupada's quarters were on the top floor of one of those towers. But when we pulled in, we went right past the project and went to the back where those houses were to Prabhupada's old quarters. And we pull up in front, and Saurabi Maharaj is there, and Prabhupada is sitting in the front, and I'm sitting behind him and Tamal, and Prabhupada's got his hands like this on his cane. And Saurabi Maharaj says, Prabhupada, it's not ready yet, your quarters. You come and stay here while we work on it. Dead silence, hands on the cane, straight ahead. Saurabi Maharaj was so flat, he didn't know what to do. So Prabhupada then turns to take me back. So we go around to and the elevators weren't working. So the brahmacharis, they were able to carry Prabhupada on a palanquin all the way up to the, fifth floor. And we walked in, and they were still grinding the marble, and they made a place for Prabhupada in the corner, put down a chadar, and he just sat there. And then he blasted Saurabi. Then he left, and he went back, and we stayed at Kartikeya Mahadevi's until, I think, 4 days later, it was ready. And when Prabhupada saw it, when it was all finished, Prabhupada said, oh, this Saurabi Maharaj has made a gentleman's quarters. It was very nice. So I was very happy there. Bhakti Charu Maharaj was cooking. Tamal Krishna was the secretary. Tamal, he loved that role. And I was the servant, like the body servant. So when Prabhupada would, I'd massage Prabhupada, then I'd bathe him. I'd sit him on the chowki in there was a bath, like a shower thing. He'd sit on the chowki, and I had heated up the water, and I'd be pouring the lota and rubbing his body. I mean, it was fantastic. I don't know, I didn't deserve this, or maybe I did because I was the most wretched, I guess, But I would bathe Prabhupada, pour the water, rub his body with my hands, and Prabhupada would just sit there, very peaceful. So Then after that, I would dry him. And then we'd walk into his bedroom, which was very nice. It was a 4-poster bed in the middle of the room, very elegant. And I'd dress Prabhupada. And then he'd rest. And the breezes from the Arabian Sea would be coming in, and Sotheby had made these white silk, heavy silk drapes, and they'd be billowing. And I'd get a bucket of cool water while Prabhupada was resting, and I'd wipe all the floors, which were all marble. I'd wipe all the floors in his darshan room and with cool water. So the atmosphere was really nice. Really nice. And billowing white silk and sunshine. So one day, I looked up, Prabhupada was sitting up on his bed. And I said, "Oh, Prabhupada, you've gotten your effulgence back." Prabhupada looked like that. Yes. He said, reddish gold. Reddish gold. He said, this is my spiritual complexion. And he said, and I have noticed that all over the West, they are very much anxious to have my color. He said, suntan. And he laughed. So that was very nice. So everything was going along as far as I was concerned, even though I was, along with Jayapataka, in charge of Mayapur and everything. All of that became really small to me in my consciousness. I was just happy if I could just have this all the time, just do this forever, forever. I'd be, you know. So I'm massaging Prabhupada one day, happy as anything, and suddenly, like a storm from the east or the west, comes Gargamuni Maharaj, who was it might have been the GBC of Calcutta, Mayapur. And he comes in to see Prabhupada. And I'm massaging Prabhupada, and Gargamuni is, first he's complaining about Vrindavan Chandra Day, that Prabhupada gave him, Vrindavan Chandra, the rights to distribute his books in Bengal. Gargamuni had the rights to distribute Prabhupada's books all over the rest of India. But Vrindavan Chandra, he wasn't really a book distributor or a salesman, so he wasn't doing very much. So Gargamuni wanted to get Bengal. Prabhupada said, he didn't respond. Then Gargamuni started saying, Bhavananda, he stutters a little bit, Gargamuni. Bhavananda, we need him back at Mayapur. It's not going on as it was. And I'm thinking to myself, you son of a gun. Because I knew this is, right? That's why he appeared like a thundercloud out of the blue. Anyway, he goes. Prabhupada turns to me, his head like this because I'm massaging his back. He said, he is so envious. He said, I have given the boy a chance to distribute in Bengal, and I've given the rest of India to him, and still he wants that little bit of Bengal. Then I'm massaging. Prabhupada's quiet, as he usually is. And massaging, you go down. you put sandalwood oil on his head and the rest of his body with mustard oil. And I'm down to Prabhupada's feet. And I would massage his feet, and I'd pull each toe, like you crack. He liked that. I'm massaging his feet, but I feel Prabhupada is going, I'm making that noise. Uh-oh. Then Prabhupada said, and I'm not saying this to brag, but I love it that he said it. And everyone should appreciate what he said to me. Suddenly this voice comes, and I'm not looking at him. He said, no one has served Gurupad as nicely as you. That is a fact. But, and I knew this but was coming, but, he said, whether my own personal care should come before the preaching, that is my dilemma. Then he was silent, and I was crying, because I knew he's going to say, I knew, you would have known, everyone would, if you were in that situation. And I was crying, and my tears were falling on Prabhupada's feet, and I was massaging his feet with my tears and mustard oil. I mean, it was the most transcendental thing that I can think of, right? So, like something out of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And then Prabhupada said, you must go. So I was very sad, but I had to go. He said, you have to go. He did it. It's just like, when Prabhupada made a decision, you did it, done, right? It's a done deal. I'll give you an example of that. In 1976, 75, they were having some trouble with Bali Mardan, the president of Henry Street Temple, which I was the president of in were you there? No, you were in Philadelphia. 1970, 71. Prabhupada called me to his room in Mayapur. He said, Bali Mardan is causing some trouble for the devotees. I won't go into all the details. It was pretty, not nice. He's causing some trouble for the devotees. I want you to go back and remove him and take charge of Henry Street. I said, but Prabhupada, what about Mayapur? He said, that is not a problem. He said, you fly to Bombay, you take Pan American Flight 002, Bombay, Frankfurt, London, New York. He said, you stay 2 weeks, then you take Pan American Flight 001, New York, London, Frankfurt, Bombay, Mayapur. He said, this way, you go back and forth every 2 weeks. What? But he said it. Right up the stairs, I went to my room, packing my little tin trunk. Then I get someone come, Prabhupada wants to see you. So I go back down to see Prabhupada, because I was on my way, right? And Prabhupada had a telegram in his hand. He said, there's no need to go now. The devotees have taken care of it themselves, right? But nothing, he knew plane schedules, he knew everything. He liked Pan American Airlines. When we wanted him to come to New York on Henry Street, and the first time, sent him a letter, Prabhupada wrote back, he was in Los Angeles. He said, yes, I will come. I want you to send me 3 round-the-world Pan-American tickets, and I will come immediately. He loved Pan American. So I managed Atreya Rishi, who was living in the temple but worked for that big accounting firm on Park Avenue. He used his credit card, and we sent the tickets to Prabhupada, and he came, and all the devotees from the East Coast were there. It was just wonderful. And Prabhupada initiated, at that time, of course, these days with Lokanath and Jai Pataka, they initiate hundreds and hundreds, but Prabhupada initiated, I think, 50
devotees a day.
Yeah, 50 devotees a day, everyone from the East Coast who was waiting for initiation. So I would do the Jugga every day in front of Prabhupada's Vyasasan. And one day, Prabhupada would speak. Prabhupada said, no, you speak. Right? You speak. So I said, I got right into it. To be a devotee, you don't have to be very beautiful. Prabhupada said, oh no, all devotees are beautiful. Continue. I said, but stubborn, because I'm on a theme. Obviously, it's the wrong theme. I said, to be a devotee, you don't have to be very intelligent. Prabhupada said, oh no, devotees are the most intelligent. So then I got the hint, and I went on another direction. So I had been in Henry Street. Prabhupada sent me there, sent me back to New York from Los Angeles in 1970 after that big conspiracy thing. He said, I want you to go to New York and make it like you have done here in Los Angeles, big temple. By the way, in Los Angeles, every morning when Prabhupada came back from his walk, I would place the incense in the temple room, and I asked Prabhupada, what incense do you like? Right? People often wonder, does Prabhupada have a favorite incense? He did. He said, I like rose and sandalwood. Just for your information in the future. Sandalwood and rose. He really liked rose. And speaking of that, when he came to Henry Street, there was a little pharmacy called Keel's on 3rd Avenue and 12th Street. And they sold all these very expensive oils. And I went there, and they had brown bottles. I bought Prabhupada for a gift for his coming, a bottle of attar of Bulgar rose. Supposed to be like the best rose oil in the world, right? It was like $80, which we did. So Prabhupada, he arrived, he greeted the deities, and we had put his rubber shoes, by the way. Am I rambling a little bit? No. His rubber shoes on the altar in the temple, the chapel that we turned into a temple room. And Prabhupada paid his obeisance, and he stood up and he was looking at the altar, and he looked at the shoes. And for a moment, I was standing next to him. For a moment, he was, what? What is that? It were his rubber shoes, the white rubber shoes that he wore. And they were on a pillow. And then he blinked, and he looked at me, big smile. He liked that. Anyway, oh yeah, so then he went to his quarters, very elegant quarters, and I gave him, he said, what is this? I said, it's considered the best rose oil in the world. And Prabhupada took this $80 bottle, unscrewed the top, poured the whole thing in his hand, and went all over his head. And then he said, then he waited a minute and said, "It's not so good. We have better in India." We have better in India. What else? I won't go into Prabhupada's last months here, and it's what else? So many things. Let's think.
Opening of Krishna Balaram.
Oh, yes. The opening of Krishna Balaram, 1975. So, Prabhupada assigned different devotees, different department heads, kind of thing. He put me in charge of cleanliness and taking care of the Brahmins who were going to do the installing of Krishna Balaram. And I want you to make sure everything. So anyway, I had a whole team of brahmacharis, and we hosed down the whole, because everything was covered with dust, we hosed down the whole inside of Krishna Balaram, up, then everything, all the water flowed into the coil. It was like was it Gundicha temple? Oh, it was wonderful. And the whole place was clean, right? Because Prabhupada, oh, this is a funny story. I'll get back to this, but this is a funny story. We were walking up the stairs to the roof at Mayapur on the Lotus building. And behind Prabhupada, it was me, Jaipataka, Chudananda, And Prabhupada stopped and he said, "Our Bhavananda is the best manager. Everything neat and clean." I was, and I poked at Chudananda with my elbow. Then we were up on the roof, and we're walking around, Prabhupada's chanting, walking all around the perimeter of the roof. And in the southwest corner, there's a little pile of leaves and twigs, just a little pile that the wind had blown into that corner, right? Prabhupada's walking around, he comes to that corner, he stops. And he points his cane. And he turns to me and he says, "This is your management. This is your management." So from the highest, boom, right down. Wonderful. Wonderful. All transcendental. The elation and the agony of, but it's all transcendental. So emotions, these are in the spiritual realm. These are, Radharani gets angry at Krishna, and she's jealous of, what's her name? Chandrabali, and Krishna is in the bushes all distraught because Radharani, it's all, these are activities. The same activities that we have, but perfect and pure. Anyway, back, where was I? Oh, yes. So, temple, and then these Brahmins come, Goswamis, whatever they were. And the Krishna Balaram were out on the floor there. And they had something on their eyes, and they're doing all this stuff. And then they called me over, and they said, They needed some jewels. I said, jewels? Yes, to put on where the deity is going to stand, there should be some jewels there. So I go into Prabhupada's room. I said, Prabhupada, these Brahmins are asking for jewels. I said, jewels? He said, no. So I went back and I told them no. Then after some time, they're still doing their puja and everything. And Krishna Balaram had something, wax, was it, on their eyes? Or, their eyes were covered with something. What was it? Wax. Then they called me, they wanted a piece of gold, that big, with a beveled edge, so they could use that to take the wax off the deity's eyes. Go back into Prabhupada and Prabhupada, they want this gold. Prabhupada said, no. Then he said, actually, he said, actually, we do not need this at all. He said, in the Kali Yuga, the Jaga for this age is chanting Hare Krishna. He said, we could just chant Hare Krishna and put the deities on the altar. But because we want to get the acceptance of the local, we're going through all this, right? But he was not impressed by all that. He said, all you have to do is chant Hare Krishna, Sankirtan Jaga. So then after, there was some house, of course everything has changed now, but you went down a path and there was a house, and Prabhas was in charge of the food for the Brahmins. And then I think I gave them 200 rupees or 300 rupees each. I had a whole bunch of rupees in my pocket. So they all come and they sit down, and I start to serve them some of the prasad. Oh no, they wouldn't take from a mlecha, right? Oh, I was so offended, I'll tell you. I was so offended. Right? So the Bengali devotees served them, but when it came time with the money, they took it. So I went to Prabhupada. I said, Prabhupada, they wouldn't take it. He said, just see. I said, but when I gave them money, he said, yes, they took it. I said, yes. He said, just see. Oh, so after I came back with my new visa, then we were in Prabhupada's room here in Vrindavan, and I had, at that time, because I was doing strict chaturmas, I had a beard, and I would only eat from the, whatever, nothing. And, there's a whole list of things with Chaturmas Prata. If you do this, then you don't smell. If you do this, then Brahma comes in a swan and flies you off to wherever. If you don't cut your nails, then you get this, all these benefits you get from just letting your body go. So I was sitting I was adjusting, I like dewy flowers, the little jasmine flowers and I had some garlands, and I was putting them on the pictures in Prabhupada's room, and Prabhupada was sitting there like this. He was looking at me and he said, you look just like Pancham George. He said, do you know him? King George V? I said, wow, I look like a king. I said, yeah, I know, I've heard of King George. He said, Prabhupada said, yes, you look just like him. He said, I saw him. He said in 1911, I think it was, 1911, He came to be crowned Emperor of India. And he said they were in Calcutta, he and his wife, Queen Mary, and they gave us the day off school, and they gave us a little flag, and we all lined the, what's it called? Charangi. As he passed by in a carriage, and we all waved our flag. He said, I saw, he passed right by me, and Queen Mary. And he said, and they gave us a box lunch. And he said, it had 2 kachoris and 1 very nice sandesh. So he remembered. He was like, what, 14, 15? He said, you look just like him. So I was they say in Australia, I was chuffed. I was really, I look like a king. The next day, I'm putzing around in Prabhupada's room, and Prabhupada, he said, you look just like Paramhansa Ramakrishna. And I said, oh no, Prabhupada, anyone but him. He said, you know him? I said, well, we're here in India, they're always asking us, do you know Ramakrishna? Do you know Vivekananda? He said, what do you say? I said, we always say Viveka who? Prabhupada slapped his hand down on his desk. He said, yes. Do not even recognize his existence. He says plant eggplant, not Tulsi. He has ruined the culture of Bengal. That was a nice little pastime. I looked like a king, then I looked like a dog. Because Prabhupada would play with us like that. He would joke with us. At the same time, of course, he was very sober. Talking of sober, when, of course, they didn't go to the moon, Prabhupada said they didn't go to the moon. So he was always telling different reasons why. He said to me one day, the full rays of the moon it's called the cooling rays of the moon. This is all from Chaitanya Leela, the cooling rays of the full moon. He said, so possibly the moon is covered with ice. He said, but also on a full moon night, you can read a book from the light. So perhaps the moon is covered with diamonds. He said, but on the moon, it's cold. So the inhabitants of the moon, there are rivers of somaras. He said, somaras is a heavenly intoxicant. And to keep warm, they drink that somaras. Then he stopped, and he looked me right in the eye, and he said, and no hangover. No hangover. Right? It's unfortunate that we just can't combine everyone as one brain and let everyone speak of their individual realizations and associations with Prabhupada. Unfortunately, we can't do that, so you just have to kind of put up with me. Good devotee, bad devotee, At least I'm a devotee. I'm still here. I'm still here. I ain't going anywhere if I can help it. What else? So many nice stories. Oh, this is just a little transcendental snippet. When I was in Boston in 1969, Satsvarup was the temple president. Prabhupada was coming from England to Boston, and he was going to stay with us for, I think, a week. So we rented this big house out some distance from the temple, because the temple was packed up. There was no, quarters for Prabhupada. So Prabhupada arrived, and they brought him to the temple, and he gave class, and greeting, welcoming, and then I was his servant. Again, they made me a servant with no qualifications. 1969. So we had a station wagon. In those days, 1969, they didn't have bucket seats. They had a bench seat, right? Like that. You sat there, someone else sat there. There's no separation. So we're driving, it's nighttime, winter, snow everywhere, ice. I'm driving Prabhupada, just Prabhupada and me, driving him out to this big house. Driving. Suddenly I feel something on my shoulder. And I look, it's Prabhupada. And he's resting on my shoulder. Very nice. I didn't slow down. Prabhupada liked my driving. He said, Bhavananda, his driving is very good, fast and sure. But he fell asleep, right on my shoulder. He didn't stay the whole time because he couldn't walk. There was so much ice. So he left after, I think, 3 days, went back to LA. Oh, yes. So what was his name? Purushottam was Prabhupada's servant when they flew, and he did not believe Prabhupada, because when they were landing on the moon, he was massaging Prabhupada a little bit, and the television set was here. Prabhupada was facing, he had his back to the television. He didn't want to watch the television. And Purushottam, Prabhupada, they've landed now. Prabhupada said, are there any trees? Are there any people? No, Prabhupada, no. They have not landed on the moon. Right? And he went on to prove that many times. But anyway, Purushottam blooped. He flew with Prabhupada to Boston, and then Bhavananda and I were sitting in Prabhupada's room at that big house, and Purushottam was packing his suitcase. He was leaving, blooping. Prabhupada just sat there, and he looked at it, and he said, he does not believe that we did not go to the moon. He said, I can understand he would doubt me, but how could he doubt the Vedas? You see, India has the best. The Vedic is always the truth. Not Western. He came to spread culture, not pizza culture. Yeah, not veggie burger culture. He came to spread transcendental culture. And taste was very important to Prabhupada. His prasadam was very important. He said to me one day, they have told me that I cannot eat ghee and salt. He said, if I cannot eat ghee and salt, I would rather die. And then he also told me that in my time, a gentleman, when he was older, He said when he felt he was going to die, they would stop eating for quite a while. They just stop eating. He said then they would stop taking water. And he said when you stop taking water, in 3 days you will die. He said, but there's no pain. He said, gentlemen died that way. They left their bodies that way. Culture. Even how to die. And Prabhupada did that. Of course, we won't go into it now, but he stopped eating. He tried, and he kept saying, there's no taste. There's no taste. No taste. Taste is not there. Taste is gone. We were discussing watching Prabhupada take prasad. It was a whole meditation. He was completely focused. Boom, boom, boom. He'd take his hand, like, presses rice, and take the subject, boom, boom, boom. He didn't disturb him. It was complete focus on the prasadam, right? When we entered, here's a funny story in Nairobi. We were flying to Bombay the next day. I think it was Diwali. So we're in Kenya, in Nairobi, and Prabhupada's just relaxing, kind of. And there's Brahmananda, Shyamasundar, and me. And Prabhupada is talking about making a movie. Prabhupada wants to make a movie, which is something that I used to do. He said, yes. He said, I will make a movie of the Mahabharata. He said, it will run for 18 days. I had been involved with a friend of mine who's a very famous, he's dead now, but he's a world famous painter and movie maker, and he did a 24-hour film of the Empire State Building. He put the camera up on the roof of Lord & Taylor's on 5th Avenue and 39th Street. And it just ran. The sun came up over and went past the top of the Empire State and went down. It was called Empire, and it ran in an off-Broadway on 6th Avenue and between at 41st Street, some cinema, and people could go in for 24 hours any time of the day or night and see the Empire State Building in different. But Prabhupada, and he was, this guy was, was it's so avant-garde, he's so, But Prabhupada bettered him. I'm thinking to myself, 18-day movie, whoa. So we all said, really, Prabhupada? I said, oh, yes. For each day of the Mahabharata, of the Battle of Kurukshetra, I shall. And he said, Brahmananda, you will be Bhishma Dev. So he was casting it. And he said, Shyamasundar, you will be Arjun. Oh, I got it. Why does he get to be Arjun? And then he said, and Gargamuni, he will be Sakuni, the crooked-minded uncle. We all laughed. And I said, well, what about me, Prabhupada? Who will I be? Prabhupada said, you will be my assistant. I will direct every day, all of it, and you will be my assistant director. So I was happy with that. Gargamuni will be Sakuni. Boy, that's funny. He knew. Yeah, he could joke like that. He told a joke. Perhaps you've heard this joke, but I remember in 1970, in the La Cienega, the Watsika Avenue, the temple room that he designed, not the present temple room, but the one that Prabhupada designed every day. He was giving class, and he was talking about the power of association. Oh, I remember this so clearly. And he said, association is so powerful. He said, there is a joke. He said, in India, the people in the villages, they pass stool in the field. So this man was passing stool, and when he was finished, he stood up and he looked down at the stool and with this look of disgust. And the stool looked back at him and said, "Why are you looking at me with that look of disgust?" He said, "Last night I was the most delectable gulab jamun. And one night's association with you, I have become this abominable thing." Yeah. I remember that joke. And I thought, yeah, Prabhupada, he can crack a joke. That was a good one. Then another class in that same, I was sitting next to Vishnu Jana at that same time, another class. Prabhupada was talking about mercy, how it rains on the rock, the ocean. He said, and your Shakespeare, called it Shakespeare, has said in The Merchant of Venice, what was her name? In The Merchant of Venice. Portia. He said, Portia, in The Merchant of Venice, said, the quality of mercy is not strained. It droppeth as a gentle rain from heaven. I poked Vishnu Jai. I said, Prabhupada knows Shakespeare. He's quoting Shakespeare, right? Unbelievable. He knew everything. He knew everything. Amazing, huh? Did you know that? Extraordinary. I'm sorry. Where is she? Where's that Tiki? Her name? Is that you? No. Are you going to speak now? Didn't you ask me? No, it's someone else from Australia. She had the same color on. Oh, I'm sorry, I ran overtime, right? It's 6:30. I'll think of one last thing to say. No, I can't. I could go on, but I won't. Huh? No, you know the saying. Leave them wanting more. Don't give it all away. I think if I can think of something beautiful. Yes, competition. In Prabhupada's room in Calcutta, we were there, someone was complaining to Prabhupada. It's all too competitive. I think it was BBT and book distribution. And Prabhupada said, no, competition is good. He said, when I was a child, my brothers and sisters and I competed for the love of our parents. He said, and in Vrindavan, the cowherd boys They compete. They race. Who can touch Krishna first? It's a competition. They run around. He said, someone touches him first, but there are no losers. He said, that's the good part. No one loses. But someone touches first, they win the competition. But there are no losers. Okay? That's nice. Competition is good. Without that competition, we become apathetic. Isn't it? Oh, beards. Back to when I'm still in Prabhupada's room. Oh, funny story. I'll leave you with this funny story. First, I'll tell you the beard story. I'm sitting here by Prabhupada's desk, and some of the sannyasis, I forget what their names were. They came in. Three of them. They had beards. Prabhupada said, "What is this hairs?" They said, "Chaturmas, Prabhupada." Chaturmas Prata. Prabhupada said, "Oh, are you chanting 64 rounds a day like our Bhavananda?" And he pointed at me. And they said, "No, Prabhupada." He said, "Oh." He said, "You shave immediately." And they left. Then Prabhupada looked at me. He said, "The hippie seed is deep in the heart. At the first opportunity, it sprouts as hairs on the face, Mr. Ghosh." So, when I came back, and then, time went by, someone wrote an article, I think it was in the Times of India, on the editorial page, went on and on and on and on about the avatars for this age. They said, surely the avatars for this age are Sai Baba of South India, Ram Krishna of Calcutta, and Bhavananda of Mayapur. So, in 1977, Tamal and Achyutananda and I were in Prabhupada's room, and some of his godbrothers came. I think 3 or 4 godbrothers. And they were standing there. Prabhupada was sitting, and we were over here. Prabhupada said, Achyutananda, of course you know, because Achyutananda was famous with the Gaudiya Math temples, because he had nowhere else to stay. Achyutananda, you know, he said, this is Tamal Krishna, he is our governing body secretary. And he said, and this is Bhavananda, he is our avatar. So on that note, Hare Krishna, thank you for tolerating your avatar. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.